Sean. How many times have you seen these big, epic drone shots in videos lately? If you're starting to feel like they've lost a little bit of their magic, you're not alone. In this video, I'm gonna break down why we need to change the way we're thinking about video production, why drone shots might actually be hurting your projects, and discuss a couple of techniques that are gonna be more relevant for telling your stories here in 2024 and beyond. Like I said, I'm Sean. If you don't know me, I'm a video producer here in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been a professional for 18 years. I've seen a lot of trends come and go in production over the years, and I'm here to tell you there's a better way than drone footage to tell your story. So if you stick around to the end of this video, hopefully you leave with a couple of techniques that'll help you take your storytelling to the next level. To begin, to understand why we need to change the way we're thinking about production, we have to stop and realize that our audience has changed. People are watching more video than they've ever watched in history, obviously. Videos become so ubiquitous. We're seeing it all over. We have TV and all our streaming services and all of our shows and our sports, the commercials on everything, the commercials on YouTube and our pre-roll ads, travel vlogs and cooking shows, and everyone's producing their own stuff, and everything has gotten more and more beautiful, which is fantastic and what we want. But it also means that our viewer has gotten very used to seeing these things. And some of these shots that used to seem very novel no longer wow our viewers in the same way that they used to. And so we need to consider how our audience is changing when we consider how to tell a story, because every story we tell is going to be a little different and it's going to require different tools to tell it. But it's also important to remember where your viewers are and what they're used to seeing if you're truly trying to captivate them as well. So let's talk about drones. When drones first became available, it was an absolute revolution. I got my first drone in like 2014, I think, the DJI Phantom 2, and it changed everything. Suddenly, I had the tools that used to be, you'd only see them in like high-end Hollywood cinematic productions, or you needed a helicopter just to get these shots, and suddenly I could do that.
All right, here goes nothing.
Suddenly, these shots were accessible to somebody at my level, and it blew my clients away, and our viewers and everything just suddenly had this scale that it didn't used to have. But as with anything like this, when you have a tool this incredible become this accessible, more and more people start to use it. And the more and more people use it, the less and less impact it has, and those beautiful, sweeping, wide, establishing shots start to lose their magic because we see them over and over. And as this has continued over the past 10 years, it's now to the point where every video has a drone shot at some point in it, and sometimes they don't even fit. And so we've seen so much of this that it has just started to lose its magic. But even if it didn't, drone footage has another issue. Drone shots are great for establishing a shot, for establishing a location, for establishing the scale or the grandiose nature of wherever you are. Drones serve that purpose well. But any shot in your video needs to do one of two things. It either needs to captivate your audience visually or push your story forward, but ideally both. But drone shots, while they can be great at establishing that location and that sense of scale, drone shots don't offer a good sense of connection. In general, especially these wide angle shots, which are the ones that we're mostly talking about here, drone footage can actually kind of pull you out of that. What makes a viewer feel a connection to something is often found in the close-ups, in the reactions, in the emotions of the people on screen. And that's the problem with drone footage, is it can't establish that same connection that other shots do. And often it can even break that connection by introducing, by its very nature, physical and therefore emotional distance between your viewer and the story that you're trying to tell. And drones are just one of the newer tools or techniques that this pattern has happened to in production. As cameras became more available in the 70s and 80s and 90s and beyond, all of these wonderful things that we used to associate just with Hollywood cinematic production have become more and more accessible to more and more people, which is fantastic. It just means that we need to think a little bit more differently about what we're creating if we're going to truly try to innovate and therefore captivate our audience. This has happened with shallow depth of field. This used to only be on cinema lenses, and now if you've got a mirrorless camera with a big sensor and a 2.8 aperture lens, you can create some gorgeous shots. Even our phones now have algorithms that can simulate some of that shallow depth of field, and it's getting better. And CGI is another one where that used to just be for big studios, and now you can animate stuff. You can use plugins in your editing software, or even animations that track your face and stuff, and can enhance things in your social media apps. And Steadicams is another one. There used to be a $100,000 Steadicam rig that you needed a trained operator to get these mind-bending shots where the camera's just floating through space. And now you can buy a gimbal for your phone for $150, or you can get a really strong gimbal for a mirrorless camera for like $500. These tools are incredible, but the more accessible they get, the more we start to see the footage that they produce. And so now all of the videos that we see, all of the commercials, the YouTube videos, the travel vlogs, everything is on a lovely steady push on a gimbal. Everything has these wide drone shots. Everything has these flashy titles that come on the screen, because the tools are available and we should use them, but we and our audience starts to grow tired of them when we see them over and over again. So the challenge for us filmmakers is to figure out how to use these tools properly, and not use a tool simply because it's available and find a way to wrap your story around that tool, but find a way to use these tools in a way that truly serves your story and serves your audience. The innovation comes from how we use the tools, not from the tools themselves. So as we move forward into our next chapters of video production, it's important to think, how can we use these tools and innovate with them? And drones can still be useful, but we need to consider what shots are going to resonate with our viewer and what shots might not resonate with our viewer, and how have we been using our drones for the past 10 years versus how might we use them for the next 10. Now there's FPV drones, and I spent a lot of money and time trying to figure out how to fly these things, and I've barely done it. But what it creates is so different, and when you watch it, it's so different than what you see from a traditional drone, because it's a different tool. But without needing a completely different drone, there's still things you can do with your traditional drone that are different than maybe what you've done so far. And there's follow shots, and you can fly really low, and you can get things that you wouldn't be able to get with a handheld camera on a gimbal that you can get with a drone, even though you're not flying it way up in the air. And there's tracking shots, there's straight down shots, there's other things you can do with your drone other than the traditional establishing shot that can be really effective for telling your story and for captivating your audience and showing them something that they haven't seen before. Phones are also something that I've talked about on this channel and struggled with personally. I struggle to use my phone for any paid client gig, but the truth is, sometimes footage shot on our phone resonates more with an audience than footage shot on a more professional rig. And it breaks my heart to admit that, because we love these tools, but a lot of times when I'm having a conversation with the client, one of the first things we talk about is, how much polish do you think we need? Because if you're creating a commercial for a bank, and you want someone to watch it, and it's gonna end up being shown on a Facebook feed or an Instagram feed or something like that, as soon as you open with that slow fade up and that wide, beautiful drone shot outside, and then you show the perfectly lit conference room where someone's giving this perfectly lit testimonial, and they're thoughtful, and everything's got good graphics on it, soon as someone sees that, they sniff it out, they know it's an ad, and they scroll right past it. And our job as producers is to create something that people want to watch. And so depending on where, not just what the story is, but where it's being told and who is watching it, we may need to change what tools we use, because there might be something a little bit shakier that is what someone on social media is expecting as they're looking at the people they follow, their friends, the influencers they follow. Trying to create something that would fit in more with that authentic, nitty-gritty, shaky footage, that might resonate more with that audience and get them to watch more of it and hear more of your story than if you stick to these traditional tools and have a very stiff traditional production. And so that applies in these client videos, but also in any story that we tell. And every story is different, and it's going to need to be told differently using different tools. But don't forget to think about what your audience is expecting and what might lose its magic for them or have lost its magic for them, versus what might be something that they wouldn't expect to see, and whether or not they register. I can't help it. I'm a video producer, and many of you probably are too. We look at things and we say, oh, how'd they do that shot? Oh, that was neat. Like, oh, how did they get the camera there? Even if our viewer isn't thinking about it in that way, our brains know when we're seeing something different than we've seen before, and we can't help but look away. And it's our job as producers to find ways to innovate with these tools to create that experience for our viewers, whether they know it or not. So, what does all of this mean for the future of video production? It's pretty simple. This is just another reminder that anytime we have a tool that becomes available to us that captivates us and expands our capabilities, it's important that we embrace it, that we learn it, that we experiment with it, but that we also remind ourselves not to let these tools get in the way of our stories. Because drones are just a tool, and like any tool, if we lean on it too hard, we will end up limiting our creative potential. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I would love genuinely to know what you think. Do you use drones? Have you ever used drone footage? Has the way that you've used drone footage changed over the years that you've been flying drones? Do you fly drones legally? Is another question that I always wonder. Let me know in the comments. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you have a great day or night or whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye.